got 2 sockets, 2 Xeon processors, 48 gigs of RAM, works perfectly fine. 2 terabytes of storage. Yeah, found it in the dump. People throw away the craziest stuff. And like, this computer, it was kind of garbage, but I sold it for $250. This keyboard, sold it for some money too. Along the way, I learned how to take all these things apart, because the computer and the keyboard didn't work when I first got them. The computer, a lot of the times, fixes for technology are a lot easier than you're expecting. So that computer found the charger with it, plugged it in, plug didn't go in. I didn't know why. So I opened it up, and the little like jack that's in the computer was still connected, but it was like broken off its post. So I kid you not, I took a hot glue gun, hot glued the plug back into place, and sold it for $250. Yeah, same idea with the keyboard. Take it apart, some of the contacts had a little bit of gunk on them, scrub it with like a wet wipe, sold it for $300. It's very, very easy. And like, you learn all these skills of taking things apart. So that was a big part of my life, and it still kind of is, but they kind of yell at me sometimes when I go in. So, you know, I kind of gotta like sneak past the guys at the dump now. Episode 2, I did a little bit of app development, and anybody that does programming knows that this is hideous. This is a screenshot from this game. I made this in like high school, in like 8th grade, high school, like that kind of area. And yeah, I thought I was gonna be a computer science major pretty much. I was like, oh my God, I'm cooking so hard. Except I didn't understand scope at all. So I literally had one file that I declared all of my variables at the very top of, so that I never ran into things being out of scope. So don't do that, that is bad practice, it's terrible. And now I can't program on the app anymore because it's such a mess. But that is something I did. And then this other thing. This was a huge part of my life in high school. Me and a few guys and one of my favorite teachers, we put together this club called Portsmouth High School Science and Engineering Club, which Seminole Innovators sounds way cooler. Jake probably knows that. It was basically the same thing. We try to get money for students, and we give them the money to do cool stuff. And get a bunch of smart people together and work on things. Like we got a grant, and we built this arcade cabinet with a Raspberry Pi and from scratch. Club paid for the wood, paid for everything. It was a huge thing. A bunch of people were in this club. There were a million projects going on at the same time. This thing was awesome too, because we followed the design that this part folds out, and there's like a keyboard on rails, so you can like reprogram the Pi if you need to, without like having to, you know, go into the back of the cabinet and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a few things that I was into before college. Lots of tech, lots of programming, lots of engineering. You would think I would apply for like comp sci, maybe like IT, computer engineering or something like that, electrical engineering. No, I did physics. I still don't really have a good explanation for that. I thought like black holes were kind of cool and stuff like that. I think I was a little comp sci out, and yeah, I ended up going physics. Technically it's physics and astrophysics, but I don't really like the astrophysics anymore. That's a different story. But yeah, freshman year happens. I don't. How many of you have taken Physics 2048 and 2049? Yeah, those classes suck. I did not enjoy those classes at all. Like, this is like so boring. Like that is not fun. Like when you think of like, oh wow, I do physics, like that. Nobody cares. Like, I'm sure a lot of you have had this issue. Freshman year, I was just like, oh my God, I picked the wrong major. I was totally thought I was screwed. I was like, oh my God, I'd be cooking in comp sci right now. Why am I doing physics? But sure enough, I never did anything about it. And then sophomore year came around, and then physics problem solving, PPS. Has anybody taken that class? No, okay. And Mech 1. Mech 1 is a nightmare. So this is one of the problems we had on one of the homework assignments. Still, all this is super boring. It's like just pendulums and blocks on planes, and it's just getting more and more complicated, but it's still lame physics. Nobody cares about this kind of stuff. But I do want to explain this problem because it is kind of cool. So a cycloid is the line drawn by a single point on a circle as it rolls along a 2D plane. And if you take this, you flip it upside down, and you hang a pendulum from this little point, and you set it at somewhere, and you let go, no matter where you set it, it will swing isochronously, meaning everywhere you let go of it, it'll have the same period of swinging. We had to prove that as a problem. It took like 5 of us, 7 hours or more. It was like a 1-week homework. It was a total nightmare. But I also had this class which is part of the astro stuff. And this is an active galactic nucleus, very cool. In deep space, they like radiate all this stuff, and you do the physics of how like the light is getting through here, and how you can tell what angle it is based on the different like wavelengths of light you're observing. That was cool, but physics still sucked. So now, sophomore year ends, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm a physics major who hates doing physics, except the astro stuff. But that changed. It did change. So I was just like, what do I do from here, right? Like, I sent a few emails asking about switching to engineering. That's a big pain because it's a different college. Really difficult to actually pull that off. I looked into switching to CS because I had taken like 1 or 2 programming classes. I kind of enjoyed them; they were fine. But yeah, this is where I was at this point in my life, and I was stressed about the future. I was. But I do want to talk about CRTs for a little bit. You can't give me the microphone and expect me not to talk about CRTs. This is one of my total obsessions. They're like those big tube TVs that you probably saw in like your grandmother's house when you were a kid. I love them. I don't really have a reason. You can play old video games on them and they look cool. It's like that nostalgia factor. But throughout my life, I have owned, well, past 2 years, I guess, is when the obsession started. I've owned 14 of them. My parents kind of hate me for it because they're gigantic most of the time. But some of the highlights, this shark is actually on top of those, the lockers over there. If you see it, it's like completely disassembled. It's over there. Don't disassemble one of these. They can and will kill you. Which I'll explain in a minute. But that one's pretty cool because I'm working on a project with it. This is like a Grail TV, very nice. It was like a $800 TV back in the day, but you know, now they're free because nobody wants them. This was an XBR, which was awesome. Basically, I just collected them, played with them for a bit, sold them. I've got some cool pictures of them. Bam. This picture I'm pretty proud of. This was hard to get. I took this picture. I took my camera and just set the exposure time to as fast as possible. And you can actually get the scan line because it's a beam of electrons going through this tube, and it's getting deflected by this yoke that traces the electron beam across the screen. And my camera's not nearly fast enough to get it as it traces across the screen. But it looks like it was just displaying a line, but this was displaying an image like that. So it was a whole screen, but it was, traces it line by line, so you see all the details. This is also this is one of the phosphor layouts on I think it's an aperture grill, because it's got these 3 different phosphors, and the beam will light up different ones when you try to display different colors and stuff. This is that Toshiba. Really hard to do this hobby if you have no friends who like it, because this is a 27-inch TV, it weighs like 150 pounds. So if you go to a Facebook Marketplace pickup and try to do one of these on your own, you're screwed. It's really hard. I drove 2 hours to get that TV and I had to fight it. But yeah, some other TVs here. And then this kind of segues relatively well into the work I'm doing at the lab. I ended up at the lab junior year, and this lab, the FABLAB, everybody loves it. And I started gaining a lot of skills. It opened my eyes to so much stuff. For one, the contrast on this projector is not great, but it's like a little shoulder piece. For pickup. I don't know if anybody's seen who's seen How to Train Your Dragon. Okay, great. That makes me happy. It's like a shoulder piece. I couldn't find any STLs for it, so I designed it from scratch, just based off pictures. All those skills I learned with the people at the lab and the hub, and everybody just being like, yo, how do I do this? And then someone would tell me. So I basically made the main part of it in Fusion, and then I took it into Blender. And in Blender, you can Blender's awesome for some stuff. I made these little you see these little straps. They're not actually straps. They're just 3D printed bumps, and then I just painted them a different color so they look like straps. Someone taught me how to make weathering on cosplay armor. Mason, I think Mason taught me that. Really cool stuff. But I made this whole costume. This I vinyl cut and laser cut. This little latch I designed myself. All these leather pieces I sewed. I did not know how to sew. But yeah, I a million different skills that I put together for this project that I never had before coming here, and I never would have expected that I would have had. It's just not exactly what I do with my major. It's like all this is so outside the realm of my major. This is that TV that I was talking about. You can do what's called an RGB mod. You can get a really, really clear signal out of these if you take this chip right here, has RGB input pins, like red, green, blue, and you can solder directly to that, because everybody knows like you've got the yellow, the white, and the red cables. You've seen those before on just like, old video game consoles and stuff. Those are junk. That's a terrible connector type. But you can adjust this and make it look really nice. This is a flyback transformer. Anybody in like electrical engineering will know this can kill you, for sure. You have to be really careful working on these. You have to like properly discharge them, so please do not try it. I do not want to be liable for that. So then I started looking into physics grad school. I don't really know why. I still didn't really enjoy physics. I took quantum mechanics. I didn't really enjoy it because a lot of the math is really ugly. It's really hard. And I'm struggling. I'm doing lots of homework, not enjoying any of it. And then I was like, oh, quantum computing is cool. That's kind of physics. That's kind of comp sci. Let me see if there's anybody at FSU that does quantum computing. So I look around the directory. I find one guy who does quantum computing in the physics department. There were a few people in CS, but I didn't really want to get involved with the CS department, at least right now. So I sent him an email, and I waited like 2 days. I got nothing back. I sent him another email, nothing. I sent him a third email, and I still got nothing. And I was pretty discouraged at this point. I was like, oh my god, I'm screwed. I'm not going to get research. All my friends are doing research. I'm never going to get into grad school, and I'm going to have to like work at McDonald's. So eventually, I was like, all right, I'm just going to show up to this guy's office. And this was scary. This is scary, man. Physics professors, like, they are not nice most of the time. So it's really scary to show up to somebody's office without ever having met them. So I show up, I knock on his door. He's like, hi. And I'm like, yeah, I'm Jake Scally. And he's like, oh, you've been sending me those emails. And I was like, yeah, that was me. And he's like, sorry I didn't get back, blah, 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 blah. And we talked, and he started asking me questions about like quantum computing. And I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about this. That's why I came to you. He was like, so like, does the word qubit mean anything to you? And I'm like, it's a quantum bit. I don't know. Basically, we talked for a bit. He asked me some intense questions that were like super quantum physics-y. I did not know the answers. And he's like, it's not a test. It's not a test. But I felt like he was judging me. He wasn't. Spoiler, he's a really nice guy, and I still work with him today. He's awesome. I love him. So no bad stuff to him. But eventually, he gave me some guidance on what to try doing on my own. And then everything fell into place. And I understood why people do physics. Because everything that I had been doing before was finally aligning with some passion that I am working on, right? So now, I start doing this stuff. I'm working on quantum computing. It's so easy. I will show you, like, it's super duper easy to get started with this stuff. It's free. IBM has an awesome platform where it's literally like, I don't know if any of you guys used Scratch in middle school, like when they were like trying to teach you programming, but like you're just dragging the code blocks. It's like that, but it's like circuit components instead. And you can, honest to God, you can log onto a computer right now and make an IBM account. And in under 5 minutes, you will be able to send your circuit that you made to a real, honest to God, quantum computer sitting somewhere in the world. There's a whole array of them, and it will run. It's super cool. But anyways, over summer, I was trying to do, I have to get a thesis ready, physics stuff. If I'm trying to do grad school, I gotta get a thesis. So I'm working with Dr. Bonesteel on that, and it was hard. So many dead ends. Research is really hard. Like, you're just trying all these different things, and it's like, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, that doesn't work. Oh, that doesn't work. And then, like, you need to, like, back up a bunch. If you think about, like, imagine, like, a depth-first search algorithm doing, like, a maze, and it just picks one route, goes all the way through, and it has to back up all the way once it realizes all those, like, different paths are garbage. But eventually, a position kind of fell into my lap. It was with the CS department. They're trying to get a quantum computing certificate program at FSU off the ground. So they're applying for like grants and stuff, and they needed a bunch of content to put in these grants, right? They need tutorials to show like, hey, we're gonna give the students this stuff, and they're gonna learn quantum computing. So I worked with them over the summer. I wrote a few tutorials, basic stuff like quantum teleportation, not as hard as it sounds, and super dense coding, all these different tutorials, and I learned so much over summer, ridiculous amount of stuff. And I was also doing what's called ZX calculus with my professor, which it's just some math thing. It's nothing special, but it's pretty cool. It's this. It's like these graphical diagrams that help explain processes. But now, I'm still working with the same physics professor, and I have a much better idea what I'm doing. And I'm part of the FSU, in the CS department, unfortunately. FSU Quantum Computing Group, which I love those guys, they're great. They're great. It's an awesome group. We all work on our things, we come together as a group, and we're like, hey, I don't understand this, and then somebody else will be able to explain it because we're an interdisciplinary group between physics and computer science. So if I'm like, I have no idea how this computer science topic works, I ask those guys, and they're like, hey, how does the physics behind this work? They ask me and the other physics people. But now my research is, this is the broad idea of what my thesis is going to be on, which is circuit optimization using ZX calculus and reinforcement learning. It's basically taking this and throwing a graph neural network at it and saying, make it better. And it works really well. Mine doesn't work really well, but other people's do, so it gives me hope. With that, I really cannot emphasize this fact enough that you have to go and I don't want to say not take no for an answer, but if the answer isn't explicitly, you cannot do this, then just keep hammering at it, you know? If you email someone and they don't get back to you, show up at their door. They can't stop you then. What are they gonna do? Say go away? It's okay, so you go away, and then your life is no different. Or they're like, what did you want? And then you explain it, and then you have a research position, and then your life is all together again. You can get a lot done just by doing this kind of thing. And I did want to talk a little bit more in detail about how easy this stuff is to do. I 100% recommend it if you're even remotely interested. This is a CNOT, if people know computer science, it's a controlled NOT gate. All this stuff is they have great tutorials on all of it. You just drag and drop. It's okay if you don't understand what these things do. It's completely free. You have 10 minutes of quantum compute accessible to you every month for free, just by existing. That's awesome. And even my craziest circuits never used more than a half a second of compute at once. And most of the time you're running these circuits thousands of times, because quantum computing, it's probabilistic, right? If you have a classical bit, right? 1 or 0, up or down. A quantum bit can be 1 or 0, or sideways, or towards me, or towards Jacob, or anything. So if you measure one that's not pointing up or down, it just has to decide, and it decides by magic, pretty much. That's just quantum mechanics. So when you run this, you get a perfectly even distribution of 50-50 because this circuit points it to the side. It's really cool. There's an awesome tutorial on IBM's website on how to do this. I 100% recommend doing it. And please, if you want any guidance on this, ask me. I would love to get more people on this. I think it's the future. I think there's a lot of money in this in the future as well. NVIDIA's hiring interns for $300,000 a year. But that's, you need to have a PhD for that. But anyways, it's totally the future. Everybody's going to need one of these. Everybody's going to have a quantum computer at some point, whether it's in our lifetime or not. But yeah, I really, really, really want to emphasize to you guys that if you don't know where you are, you got to make your own luck and then get lucky. So you're always trying to make your own luck, right? I show up at this guy's door, he connects me to this guy, and I start doing research, and over summer, I get an email, and he's like, hey, computer science department is doing this thing, thought you'd be interested in. And then I got paid over summer, I'm getting paid now, and I'm doing research that's relevant to my major, and it's an awesome resume point, and it just kind of fell into my lap because I created my own luck. Yes, it was still luck that this happened. He could have just not reached out to me, but it was awesome. And I really cannot emphasize enough to you guys that you really have to try to get these things done, and it will improve your life and your undergraduate experience and your future a ton. So my plan right now is to do grad school I'm trying to do a physics PhD program, or if I can find something more specific, a quantum computing PhD program, but those are like few and far between. Where I don't really know. Anywhere, whatever. As long as they have CRTs in the neighborhood, I don't really care. So anyways, if you guys have any questions, you're free to come up after. Thank you everyone for coming. Special thanks to everyone in the Innovation Hub and the Fab Lab, Eric, Wes, Ren, Ken, Jackson, who's not here, Jacob, everybody, seriously. It means so much to me that you guys gave me this awesome opportunity to work here, and it's improved everything in my life by a lot. The things I've learned have reflected on everything I do, and I just want to say thank you to everyone.